Assalamualaikum and a very good day to all participants of the 3rd International Conference on Global Business and Social Science 2020. I'm Nur Ahada Kamaruddin from Universiti Kebangsaan, Malaysia, who will be presenting a paper entitled Cloud Security Pre-Assessment Model for Cloud Service Provider based on ISO IEC 27017-2015 Additional Control. This paper is also co-authored by Technologist Dr. Ibrahim Muhammad from Universiti Kebangsaan Malaysia and Technologist Ahmad Dahari Jarno and Dr. Marcelina Daud from Cybersecurity Malaysia. Without further ado, I would like to highlight on the outline for this presentation. This presentation will consist of 5 sections, namely background studies, methodology, model development, implementation and future work, last but not least on recommendation and conclusion for these studies. As we know that cloud service is an emerging technologies that have been used widely. It also have attract both academics and industry players beside serving flexibility services, scalable and also cost savvy. However, on the part of cloud security subscriber or the CSS, they concerns in regard with data loss of what or whichever data or any information they have placed inside the cloud services. By looking at this, cloud service provider, or known as CSP, have also raised up their concern on the data loss and the lack of transparency while managing the data services. Hence, it is encouraged for the CSP to adapt best security services or practices to ensure the security of the data and information that have been placed inside the cloud. This paper also will focus on the factors contribute to the pre-assessment readiness level towards cloud service provider. As we know that in Malaysia, cloud computing is an emerging phenomenon. This is because it does contribute to effectively using the resource that each of the organization have. Besides that, there is a lot of benefits by using cloud computing, such as it provides a self-service services, and it can also be accessed from various locations and devices, and also have a fast electricity with a great scalability. However, there is always a challenge or an issues pertaining to the cloud security, such as security on the data, privacy issues, control issues, and since it involves with diverse framework, guideline, and legislation, it does cause the cloud service provider having their hard time to follow any guidance or framework given. By looking at this, there is a crucial things to do to adopt the Information Security Management System, or ISMS. This is because ISMS does provide comprehensive assessment without neglecting the vision and mission of an organization. In other words, the top level management will be needed to involve in the implementation of information security management system. By adopting the ISMS, it can increase the integrity and also the confidence level of the cloud service subscriber. In this paper, we are compare the cloud computing security standard. In this paper, there is 4 standards that have been compared. The first one is the Cloud Security Alliance, Open Security Framework, CSA or CF, and also Cloud Security Alliance, Security Trust and Security Registration, or known as CSA STAR. CSA Open Certification Framework is based on the independent assessment that being listed as CSA STAR. However, this standard might having a conflict of interest, since it will be assessed by the cloud service provider itself. The second standard involved are the Service Organization Control, or known as SOC. However, this SOC is focusing mainly on the financial-based company. Hence, it might not be suitable for the cloud service provider to use these kind of standards. The third one will be the Payment Card Industry Data Security and Control, which is known as ICGBSS. In this control, it's focused on the payment card security that will involve the transactions either using online or also offline, using the terminal of the that support the PCI DSS standard. And the last standards that involved in these studies are the ISO IEC 27001, 27002, and 27017. As we know that ISO IEC 27001 is a main guide for information technology security, while the ISO IEC 27002 are more is a complement or code of practice that supporting the ISO IEC 27001. Meanwhile, the ISO 27017 is focused more on the cloud service activities. As at 2018, there is more than 31,000 certificates, valid certificates produced by the ISO IEC 27001. Hence, this is the reason why we choose ISO 27017 as the standard to do a preliminary model. And moving forward, in this paper, we also compare an existing security readiness model that comprises of 4 models. The first model is the 6-domain framework that developed by the Susanto, Al-Munawar, and also Tuan on 2012. It consists of 6 domains, which are organization, stakeholder, tools and technology, policy, culture, and knowledge. This is a basic elements that measure the readiness model in organization. The second model is Cloud Readiness Assessment Framework that built by Al-Mahi and Getahun in 2015. In this framework, it is a combination framework from the Technology Organization Environment Framework, Diffusion on Innovation DOI, and also Technology Acceptance Model TAM. This combination of 3 models and framework have contribute to 12 readiness for the to assess the readiness for the cloud. And the third one is readiness model for ICS and cloud. This model consists of 4 stages to measure the readiness value instrument. And the last one is hexagonal cloud security model. In this model, is having 6 basis elements and also 2 additional elements, which is durability, availability, validity, confidentiality, utility, ownership, integrity, and also security, which is developed by Bhatia and Malhotra in 2018. In this paper, by compare the security standard and also the readiness model, security readiness model, we have concluded that there is a domain, we discover a domain or a factor that affect the pre-assessment level on the cloud security provider. Hence, in this paper, we have identified 7 domains, namely tools and technology, organization, policy, stakeholder, culture, knowledge, and environment. These domains have been chosen by, based on 2 studies which conducted by Susanto et al. On 2012 and also Borgman et al. 2013. By recognizing the domain, the 7 domain, we are mapping this domain and also the controls from the ISO IEC 27017 to develop a preliminary model. The development of preliminary models are divided by 3 stages in methodology. As we know that in the methodology, there is 3 phases involved, which are the phase 1 preliminary studies, in which in this phase 1 we are doing the literature review on previous studies available and also developing the preliminary models for the studies. Meanwhile, for phase 2, we are doing the verification and it conducted by the expert. In this phase 2 studies, it involves domain mapping and it will be verified by the expert, and the outcome is to producing a final model for these studies. Meanwhile, for the last phase or phase 3 in these studies are validation. Validation involved with the practitioner of the cloud service and it being validated by using the prototype build and it being confirmed with the questionnaire that being hosted by the Google form. We move forward to the development preliminary models that are consist of, there is a framework and also the readiness model that have been combined, and it will produce a preliminary model that consists of 6 domains. Moving forward, there is a final model for these studies that consists of 44 controls from the ISO IEC 27017, and each of these controls have their own security measurement. In total, there is 94 questions that need to be answered by the cloud service provider in order for them to measure their readiness level. And as the result from the prototype that have been tested and also being answered by the practitioner, we have noticed that there is 9 practitioners that have been coded by respondent 1 until respondent 11. There is 9 respondents have achieved a high level readiness in terms of cloud security. Meanwhile, there are 2 practitioners which are respondent number 2 and respondent number 11. They just achieved an intermediate level of readiness. In terms of the domain factor, there is only 1 domain that score an intermediate levels of readiness. Meanwhile, for the rest of 6 domains, which are technology, organization, policy, culture, knowledge, and environment, they did have scored the recorded a high level of readiness. By looking at this, we know that from the 7 domain, only 1 domain is being positioned as the lowest domain in the radar graph, since it's achieved only a intermediate readiness level. In terms of the achievement of effectiveness level, it recorded that out of 11 respondents, it shows that 5 or and equals to 45.15% of practitioners actually strongly agree with the effectiveness of this prototype. For the efficiency level, it's recorded about 54.5%, that equals to 5 practitioners strongly agreed that this model are efficient to be used. By looking at the limitation and future work, this model can further be developed with some security issues by adding some requirement or a measurement to measure the privacy, and also can discuss on issues in different provisions of law and jurisdictions, because we know that cloud service somehow, if the service is being offered in a country A, let's say, might be the data center or the server actually is not located within the same country A, but it can be located either in country B, C, and etc. Hence, it is important for us to know the provisions of law differences and also the jurisdiction of each country. And the second thing is that since this study is focused more on the cloud service provider that actually have practiced the ISO IC 27001, it can be further expand this type of studies to any company or agencies that haven't even practiced ISO IEC 27001. And apart from that, also, as we know that cybersecurity incidents are increasing tremendously, it can be called like that, due to so many security threats that keep coming nowadays. It is crucial actually for all the organizations or agencies to practice the information security management system. And to end this presentation, there is recommendations that can be suggested in regards with these studies. Since these studies has successfully met the objective and have successfully also identified the factors that could affect cloud service provider pre-assessment readiness level on cloud computing security, it somehow can be expanded to not only measure the pre-readiness level, but also to measure the during the executions of the ISO IEC or any ISMS practices. And as we know that through this prototype that have been built using in the studies, it actually is a good tools to promote agency awareness in terms of cloud security. And finally, as the final model for these studies, can also be used as a guideline for both private or public agencies in ways to provide a safer cloud computing environment to all. With this, I would like to end my presentations, and thank you. Assalamualaikum and